In Spain, a crowd of migrants from Mali blocked a temporary accommodation center in Alicante and threatened to block the highway if they were not granted legal status. The protest took place at the Costa Blanca Explorer hotel complex, where the undocumented migrants have been living since last December. The protesters blocked access to the facility for employees of the Sepame Foundation, which handles the paperwork for legalizing their stay, and demanded that the process of issuing documents be expedited. As an additional means of pressure, they threatened to block Highway N332, which is used by over 25,000 vehicles daily. The Malians have been in Spain since the spring of 2024. They were taken in after arriving by boat in the Canary Islands. Initially, the undocumented migrants were housed in a 4-star hotel in the center of Gardamar del Segura. But following protests by local residents, they were transferred to the Costa Blanca Explorer, located outside the town. Earlier, the Spanish government, led by socialist Pedro Sanchez, announced plans to legalize the status of approximately 500,000 migrants. On April 14th, the country's Council of Ministers officially approved this decision. The U.S. has officially refused to participate in the review of the UN Global Compact on Migration and has spoken out against population replacement in Western countries. The U.S. State Department has accused the UN of systematically facilitating mass migration to America and Europe, even in cases where the citizens of those countries have called for stricter restrictions. The new pact calls on countries to further expand opportunities for people to enter their territory and legalize immigrants. The department's statement says that the U.S. will never support agreements that facilitate mass migration to America and other Western countries. Under the current administration, the State Department will also promote remigration. Democratic mayor of a California city charged with secretly working for the Chinese Communist Party. Arcadia Mayor Eileen Wong will stand trial for criminal activity as a foreign agent. The politician, who was born in China, ran the U.S. News Center website, which was positioned as a news source for the local Chinese American community. According to the Department of Justice, she received and carried out instructions from officials in Beijing to post content supporting the CCP. In her plea agreement, Wong stated that she had failed to notify the U.S. government that she was working on behalf of China. The mayor faces up to 10 years in prison, as the charges pertain specifically to actions carried out under the direct control of a foreign government. Rather than a violation of foreign agent registration rules, Wong has already resigned. Iran will not continue negotiations with the U.S. without a ceasefire in Lebanon. The lifting of sanctions, the unfreezing of funds, compensation for damages, and recognition of Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. A 5-point list of demands was sent to the Americans in response to their plan, according to the Iranian news agency Fars. It is noted that the U.S. blockade of ports following the announcement of the ceasefire only reinforced the Iranians' belief that the United States cannot be trusted. The ceasefire between the parties to the conflict has been in effect since early April. On May 11th, Trump stated that he does not intend to agree to the latest draft of the agreement to end the war in Iran. 41% of young Muslims in Austria believe that Islamic laws are more important than state laws. This is according to the results of a study commissioned by the city of Vienna. The study surveyed 1,200 people aged 14 to 21. 46% of respondents also believe that one must be prepared to die for one's beliefs. 65% are convinced that Sharia law should be strictly applied to all aspects of daily life. Nico Marchetti, Secretary General of the Austrian People's Party, stated that this situation is unacceptable and that everyone who comes to the country must assimilate and become part of it. Austria will not become a caliphate. There is no place in our country for those who reject these principles. Macron declared that France's fate is intertwined with that of Africans. He urged French youth to believe that their country's success depends on the success of impoverished nations on the neighboring continent. Macron also noted that 17 million people of African and Arab descent already live in France, 24% of the total population. In his view, this means that France has already become part of the African continent and will prosper just as Mali, Senegal, and Algeria do. French President Emmanuel Macron's approval rating currently stands at 11 to 16%. It follows that even among the 17 million Franco-Africans, at least half do not support him. For years, a Christian preacher urged gay men and lesbians to give up their relationships for the sake of God. In the end, he was expelled from the church for an inappropriate relationship with a man. We're talking about Sam Alberry, who literally built his career on urging members of the LGBT community to endure and pray. It turned out that he himself was involved in a relationship with a man in 2022. This came to the attention of representatives of Emmanuel Church in Nashville, where he had served since 2023. They stated that they had known about the incident as early as 2024, but did not believe it had reached a level warranting removal. However, new information showed that removal was necessary. Sam is an openly gay and devout Christian leader who believes that homosexual attraction in itself does not make a person a sinner. According to his beliefs, only same-sex sex and relationships are sinful, and for the sake of the salvation of their souls, he called on gay men and lesbians to renounce them. Keir Starmer has once again refused to resign, despite lacking support from both voters and even members of his own party. Following Labour's complete collapse in the local elections in England, 80 out of the party's 403 MPs have already called on the leader to step down. They believe they need a new leader who can help improve relations with the public. According to a February poll, Starmer's approval rating among Britons stands at -47. Only 22% view him favorably, while 69% view him unfavorably. However, Starmer himself believes that the bottom has not yet been reached and that he still has room to improve. In his view, the British public expects him to be the one sitting in the Prime Minister's chair. He will be ready to step down only when discontent within the party grows even stronger and MPs are able to oust him from office. To trigger this process, his potential resignation must be supported by 20% of Labour MPs in the House of Commons. Trump stated that journalists who claim Iran is holding its own against U.S. pressure are treacherously giving the enemy false hope. Trump once again labeled ultra-leftists, who do not believe the U.S. is winning the war with Iran, as hostile elements. As he clarified today, only losers, ungrateful people, and fools can deny a reality in which, allegedly, only U.S. military triumphs are taking place. On May 1st, the White House notified Congress that it considers the war with Iran to be over. At the same time, according to YouGov, only 13% of Americans believe that the U.S. has already won the war with Iran. On May 12th, the center's management notified contractors of the upcoming closure. According to available information, the detainees are scheduled to be transferred out by early June, after which the center will be dismantled over the course of several weeks. It is not yet clear exactly where the migrants will be transferred. According to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, approximately 1,400 people were being held at the center in April 2026. The center opened in July 2025, about 70 kilometers from Miami, and was designed to accommodate up to 1,000 people. When announcing its opening, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security published generated images of alligators wearing ice caps against a backdrop of a barbed wire fence. Donald Trump, in his usual style, commented on the name. In his words, "You have to run away from alligators," waving your arms. However, the president soon clarified that the center's mission is to ensure the safety of Americans. The American Civil Liberties Union and representatives of local indigenous peoples opposed the opening of the facility. In less than a year of operation, the center has cost the state hundreds of millions of dollars, more than $1 million a day. Florida has yet to receive the $608 million in federal reimbursement. A number of private contractors are experiencing financial difficulties. According to some accounts, payments have not been received for more than 200 days.